Coaches, coaches, coaches. There's 32 of them last time I checked, making millions of dollars all around the league. But let's narrow it down to your top 10. Tristan, take it away with number 10.
Okay, this is current head coaches. So Bill Belichick, who's the guy that coached the top? Mike Vrabel, blanked on his name. You're out. We're not counting you right now. This is people that will be coaching in 2024. I am accounting how good I think they are now and past success to an extent. Basically, for me, it's if I had a job opening, who am I calling first down through 10? Okay. Number 10 for me is Doug Peterson, the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, former coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think last season, 2023, was a little bit rocky for him, but we can't deny that this man is a good football coach. We're going to talk about him later in another segment. I think 2024 is going to be a big year for him. But when you look at his career, 60-53-1 regular season career record, 5-3 playoff record, a conference championship appearance, a Super Bowl victory, 3 division titles. Even though he hasn't had a ton of seasons as a head coach under his belt, the record kind of speaks for itself. And he did take the Eagles to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl with Carson Wentz and then Nick Foles as his quarterback, went to Jacksonville and did kind of revitalize Trevor Lawrence's career. I mean, he had them on the door of beating the Chiefs in the 2022 playoffs. Last year didn't go according to plan, but he's still, I think, one of the best coaches in the league. I got to put him at number 10.
I like it. I really do. I mean, he's one of 7 active coaches with a Super Bowl title, so you got to give him some credit for that. Let's just see what he does into this season because it was a rocky season last year. Let's move on to number 9. I like your pick here. Who is it?
Number 9 on the list, despite some people may be wanting to knock him down, I've got Sean Payton at number 9. Past success has to mean something. 160-97 career record, 9-8 in the playoffs, 7 division titles, 3 conference championship appearances, and 1 Super Bowl victory. You can never take that away from him. Some people might say, is he still a great coach? Is he what he used to be? I think the jury is still out. It's definitely a big season for him coming up in 2024. But let's just say, regardless, he did turn Denver around to an extent. I think he did get the most out of Russell Wilson. Denver before Sean Payton with Nathaniel Hackett was a complete dumpster fire. He came in and at least made them respectable, actually beat the Chiefs, had them winning multiple games and stepping closer to being a contender. If he figures out the quarterback situation, Denver will be dangerous. But if you gave Sean Payton a great quarterback, he's obviously a great coach. We saw it for years with Drew Brees. He's number 9 on my list.
I don't hate that either. It's hard to argue with a 160-97 record, right? That's pretty substantial when it comes to head coaches. Not many head coaches in the league still have that kind of record. Let's move on to number 8. I feel like you're about to talk about this team behind me on my right shoulder. Let's hear it.
You're correct. Number 8 on the list is Sean McDermott. Anyone who's listened to this show for an extended period of time will know we've kind of flipped on Sean McDermott. We used to criticize him heavily, I would say, and then the rest of the media, as if we're part of the media, we're 2 idiots. A lot of the media piled on Sean McDermott, and that's when I started kind of putting more blame on Brandon Beane and saying, guys, let's not act like Sean McDermott is the problem. He is a great football coach. Does he have limitations? Sure, but what he's been able to accomplish speaks for itself. He's 73-41, 5-6 in the playoffs, 4 division titles, 1 conference championship appearance. I know you want the Super Bowls, you want the conference championship victories with Josh Allen as your quarterback, but he's still the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. That is still in the cards for him. He still could go and win the Super Bowl. One thing is for certain, he is a leader, and I think everyone became really impressed with him in 2023 last season. The Buffalo Bills were spiraling. They were down. They were out. And then that, I don't want to call it a hit piece because it was factual, but that article about him and his 9/11 references came out and kind of smeared him. And the team rallied around him. And when the ship was sinking, he turned it around and he had them really close to beating the Chiefs in the playoffs. If it's not for Kansas City and Andy Reid, Sean McDermott might have multiple Super Bowls at this point. He's got to be on the list. If I was needing a head coach or wanting to turn an organization around, he would be one of my first calls, actually. I love him. He's got to be at 8.
I don't like the fact that you undersell us as not part of the media. I kind of take offense to that. However, we have bashed, steamrolled, uplifted, and put a bandage on Sean McDermott throughout this entire last season, right? And I think we'll continue to do this because I don't believe the Bills will win the Super Bowl while he is head coach. I digress. Let's move on to number 7. This guy just got a contract. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, just got a 3-year contract extension. Number 7 on my top 10 current head coaches, Mike Tomlin. 173 and 102 in the regular season, 8-10 in the playoffs. He has 7 division titles, 3 conference championship appearances, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and 1 Super Bowl victory. He's got an incredible career. We know he's never had a losing season. I think it's easy for people to be harsh on Mike Tomlin. I know I have been. I've even said at a certain point, the Steelers have to ask if they're happy, barely squeaking into the playoffs and losing the first game every season. I don't know. I'm not saying he should be the long-term answer. I mean, he is because he got a contract extension. I think you can have serious gripes about Mike Tomlin and still acknowledge he has been a great football coach and he is still a great football coach. It has been tumultuous since the loss of Roethlisberger. It absolutely has. But I don't know if there's another coach in the league that would have gotten what he got out of Kenny Pickett and this whole, era of Steelers football. Hopefully Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, that can turn around. The fact that he's still making the playoffs and challenging your Buffalo Bills last season with the quarterback situation he has speaks to the coach he is. His defenses are always good. He's a leader of men. He's got to be on the list.
Yeah, coach of the Steelers since 2007, right? So he's been in football as long as I've been following it, pretty religiously. So an NFL without Mike Tomlin, I don't know what it looks like. I don't really want to know because I do love the guy. I respect him. He's got his hands full, though. He's got his hands full with the Steelers next year. I hope he does great. Let's move on to number 6. This is actually one of my favorite head coaches in the NFL right now. Talk about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 6, while not as accomplished as the others, he's got to be here for me. Number 6 is Dan Campbell.
Can't lean on that record too much right now.
That's right. But let's mention it. 29 and 33 and 1. And you say, oh, whatever. But 2 and 1 in the playoffs with the Detroit Lions, a division title, a conference championship appearance, had the 49ers beat. He made a couple errors in that game, no doubt. It's not all on him, but he did make errors in that game. He is a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl. It is easy for people, maybe people, significantly younger than you and I, to underappreciate what Dan Campbell has done. Turning around the Detroit Lions into legitimate Super Bowl contenders without Matt Stafford. You trade Matt Stafford, you bring in Jared Goff, and you are Super Bowl contenders. The Lions have been a dumpster fire our entire life. Literally, our entire life they've been a joke, and he turned that organization around. The only reason his overall record is bad is because his first season obviously wasn't good because it's Detroit, and then it took him a while to get going. In the second season, he was even on the hot seat for a second. I'll never forget, me and you did our show, and we said, if Detroit fires Dan Campbell, they will never be successful because you can see that he has that it factor. Again, maybe he's not the X's and O's guys, but he is, as I said about Mike Tomlin, a leader of men. The team rallies around him. They believe in him. They go to war for him. The introductory press conference, we all laughed at the whole, Biden kneecaps, who is this guy? But that has kind of become their identity. They are a tough, physical football team. And I'll tell you, there's not many men on the planet I would rather have leading my locker room than Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell has the team. Dan Campbell controls the locker room and has his players willing to put up their life for him, really.
Right.
And it honestly, the way he structures his team reminds me of the old school backyard football team, man. Like, that's just what it is. That's who they are. They come out, they're scrappy, and they are never going to give up. They'll fight you all the way to the last second in the fourth quarter. I love Dan Campbell. I think he's got a long career ahead of him in the NFL, and I do feel like a Super Bowl will come his way eventually. Let's move on to number 5. Let's talk Green Bay.
Let's talk Green Bay. Number 5, a coach I didn't know how I felt about him till after this season, but now Matt LaFleur makes my list, and he makes it all the way at number 5. 56 and 27, 3 and 4 in the playoffs, 3 division titles, 2 conference championship appearances. I didn't know how much of Green Bay's success was Rodgers and how much was Matt LaFleur. I knew LaFleur had to be credited to some degree because Aaron Rodgers didn't have that success in the later years of McCarthy. So obviously he did something. But I was really interested, as most people, to see what Matt LaFleur looked like post Aaron Rodgers. What could he get out of Jordan Love? And it started really rocky, but he said this, he said they had the training wheels on, they were trying to protect him, and about halfway through the season, they said, look, this isn't working. We're going to take the training wheels off, we're going to cut Jordan Love loose, I'm going to tell him to run my offense, and he's going to sink or swim. Well, oh baby, he swam, and he might get a gold medal one of these days. Jordan Love became one of the league's best quarterbacks based on last season, one of the most promising, let's at least say that, and you really got to see the brilliance of Matt LaFleur's offense. Coming from that Sean McVay tree, some of that was masked by Aaron Rodgers, because he even said Aaron Rodgers will go with the play call on first and second down. On third down, Aaron Rodgers is just calling his own play, going to his matchup. Jordan Love really showed you how good Matt LaFleur's offense is, how creative it is, and I'm telling you, another team that had San Francisco on the ropes. I think if there's one coach in the NFC that could challenge, two of the guys we're going to talk about later on this list, it's this guy, Matt LaFleur. Got to be one of the best young coaches in the league.
Yeah, we'll just kind of blot that field goal decision in the NFC Championship in 21 off his record. That didn't happen. Let's move on past that. And let's just move on
mistake.
Let's just move on to number 4. I know it's one mistake, but Packers fans still talk about it, and that's all I'm saying.
Number 4, John Harbaugh, Baltimore Ravens head coach, a career record of 160-99, 12 career playoff wins, 10 losses. He's been the coach there for as long as I can remember. 5 division titles, 4 conference championship appearances, and of course, a Super Bowl victory that he won over his brother, Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh is one of those coaches. One, it's the Harbaugh identity, right? It is tough, old school football. They want to run the football. They want to play defense. They want to play football the way it was intended. They want to wear you down. They want to go to war. They want to really find out who you are in the fourth quarter. And that's what the Ravens have been before Lamar and with Lamar. Obviously, they've shifted their offensive approach a little bit, but they still want to run the football. You can argue last year they got bit because they didn't run the football enough in the game against the Chiefs. That's kind of the thing that bit them. But the Ravens, when Harbaugh is the coach, is one of those teams you just know, year in, year out, they're going to be a contender. And unless something happens, unforeseen circumstances, you're going to have to deal with them. That was the way it was before Lamar. That's the way it is now. I think Harbaugh's going to be there a long time. He's one of the best coaches in the National Football League.
Who doesn't love John Harbaugh? Not to be confused with his brother Jim at the Chargers. Let's move to number 3.
Number 3, the third best head coach in the league, in my opinion. And this is where it might get a little controversial because a lot I actually think would have him too. Number 3, I've got Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, a career record of 64-51, 8-4 in the playoffs, 3 division titles, 4 conference championship appearances, 2 Super Bowl appearances, both of them losses to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the main reason I have him below the next guy. He hasn't won the big one. I love Kyle Shanahan. He is one of the most brilliant minds in football. He also consistently has arguably the best roster in football. Now, what he does with his quarterbacks is impressive. He turns every quarterback into gold, and I don't have anything negative to say about him. I think sometimes in playoff games, he can become a little addicted to the script. He can be a little scared to go off script. We've talked about that before. I don't think that was the case in the 2023 playoffs. I thought he kind of got out of that. Him and Brock Purdy work well together. There's nothing bad I can say about him. He's one of the most brilliant minds in football. Some people would say the most brilliant behind Andy Reid. I love him. I just love him a little less than my number 2.
You can't deny that Kyle Shanahan has taken this offense in every quarterback, situation he's ever had and turned it into a dreamy offense. It's unreal. It's uncanny. I love the dude. I also love your number 2 pick here.
Number 2, the man who's lost a lot to Shanahan, but ultimately, this is my list. This is if I was making a phone call and I had to pick between Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, personally, just again, personal preference.
We're calling you. We're calling Tristan
right.
Bunn right here. Tristan. Is nobody's list but yours.
GM's on the phone. He's saying, buddy, I need your opinion, okay? And I'm saying call Sean McVay. He's number 2 on my list. 70-45 career record in the regular season, 7-4 in the playoffs, 3 division titles, 2 conference championship appearances, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and 1 Super Bowl victory. So same amount of division titles as Kyle Shanahan. Remember, they're in the same division, by the way. Same amount of Super Bowl appearances, but he's got a Super Bowl victory. Yes, he had Matt Stafford, but you still got to make it work. I think before 2023, Sean McVay would not have been above Kyle Shanahan. even though Shanahan took the 49ers to the Super Bowl last year, what Sean McVay was able to accomplish with that young roster in 2023 impressed the hell out of me. I thought they'd be lucky to win 7 games. Even though I love Matt Stafford, I just didn't. We said on the show they're going to have a Chiefs 2022 draft class. Well, they did that, and Sean McVay proved that the fire still burns and he still wants to go and win titles. I think the Rams are going to be a force to be reckoned with as long as he's the head coach there. I love Sean McVay. He's number 2.
If there's ever a coach that says, hold my beer, watch this, it's Sean McVay to me, right? Like he's got that little bit of crazy in his eyes that says, you know what, I'm going for it on 4th and 15. I'm going to go for the gusto. I'm going to win it all, or I'm going to walk out of here with nothing. Like that's my only 2 options. I'm not going to just give it, 80%, 90%. I'm going 110 all the time.
He has absolute belief in his players.
Yes, he's young, he's innovative, and he really gets the best out of all the players that are around him playing for him. So love it. Let's talk about number 1. No surprise here to anybody's list. I believe he's atop anybody's list if they make a top 10 head coach list. Let's talk about your head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't argue it at this point. He is knocking on the door of the all-time greats. Andy Reid, we're so used to him, we don't look at the numbers a lot. And when you look at him, they're just absolutely incredible. 258 and 144 and 1, 26 and 16, 26 career playoff victories. There's a very good chance he's going to pass Bill Belichick in playoff wins, which is incredible. 14 division titles, 11, Ryan, let me say that again, 11 conference championship appearances, 5 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl victories.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
That's right, you bet. There's very few people in NFL history, very few coaches that stack up against him. That's where we are. Yes, he needed Mahomes to get him to that level of all-time great, but he was already getting there. Look, I mean, a lot of these numbers are with Philadelphia. He had a long career run there and then was good with Alex Smith. He went, got Mahomes, turned him into Mahomes, and the rest is history. Andy Reid is in the discussion for top 5 to 10 all-time great head coaches, and his career is not over.
He got Mahomes and turned him into Mahomes. I love that.
He did.
I love that. That should be the slogan for Patrick Mahomes' life. Like, I was Mahomes before, but then I was really Mahomes once I met Andy Reid.
He got the most out of him. You know what I mean? He unlocked his full potential.
A lot of truth in that statement.
You like the list? You okay with it?
Love
is there
the list,
anything
man.
you would change?
No, but I'll tell you who's really skirting on that top, like that skirt of top 10 is DeMeco Ryan for me. Like he's really making his way into that top 10 for me. Like that, the very bottom, he's on the outside at 11, looking in at 10 for me. I love what he's doing with the Texans. He's a phenomenal coach, and look, he's really proven himself. Let's do this list again next year, and I'll do it. And there's a chance he could squeak out like a Doug Peterson or something for me. It would be hard because Doug Peterson actually has that Super Bowl, so I may replace him with McDermott.
DeMeco was in consideration, but it's only one season. I just got to see a little bit more. Same with Shane Steichen. The 3 coaches that were right on the outside looking in the debate when I was making the list was DeMeco Ryans, Shane Steichen, and then Zach Taylor for the Bengals. Zach Taylor's obviously, made it to a Super Bowl, but Phil, a lot of it is Burrow. I do respect Taylor more than I used to, but if I was hiring, I don't think I would call him before any of these other guys. But after next season, any of those guys could slip into the top 10.
Well, now we know if you get the call, who you're going to put in your top 10 for any quarterback position there is. If a GM calls you, we got the list.
You mean head coach. These guys, if Doug Peterson's playing quarterback, we might have a problem.
Did I say quarterback?
Sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, either way.